Welcome to another episode of Bike Teacher. My name is Arthur. Today we will be trimming the hydraulic brake lines front and rear on this bike. Right now they're a little big. Can you ride like this? Yes. Does it look cool? To some people, no. But you're going to need some new hardware. We're working with the Shimano derailleur, so these are going to use a new olive and a new barb. The olives typically come in brass. Going to need one set for each brake, so that's two olives and two barbs. And most of the time we can go ahead and trim these up without putting too much air back into the system. We can usually still operate pretty good. Worst case, if we do drop a lot of fluid and air gets into the system and we find out that once we're all through that we hit the lever and it goes and touches your handlebar, in most cases you're going to have to bleed it. You got too much air in the system and we got to bleed the whole system. So not a big deal as long as you have the equipment and the know-how. Well, let's get started. Today we will be working on a Specialized Status 2. It weighs about, feels like 150 pounds actually, but it's pretty damn heavy. These are courteous of a last student that came through. He took a 40-hour class. Thanks, Ricky. This part right here, this is a Park Tool HB-H-2. This is optional. This is just going to keep the steering straight so it doesn't move on me. Since I'm working alone, you can put a strap around it. You're supposed to grab these bars, but part of this triple crown, the double crown, is getting in the way, so that may not even work, so I'm going to toss that. Going to this style, I'm going to preset this. Since I'm working alone, I got to have everything ready so I can work quickly and not worry about dumping too much fluid. So I'm going to my blocks here. So right in there is hollow. The hydraulic line is going to fit right inside there, just like that. So you'll see how this works. We're going to squeeze this together. Basically it's pushing and holding pressure on this hose, hugging it but not crushing it. So I'm going to preset this. I want to find the sweet spot, so that closes a little bit easy, so I'm going to tighten it up and we're going to go with that. You'll know if it's too loose because as you're pounding the hose might slip through your blocks here, but you can always adjust that. So we're pretty close right there. I'm happy with that. First thing I like to do is we're going to slide this over, and this is just a dust cover. Slides right off. You let that slide down. Go ahead and use your 8mm. Oh, excuse me, 8mm, not 10. So we're going to unloosen, so going upward, loosen that up. So once we break this free, this is just going to unscrew and slide out. You may have some fluid that drops out, that's okay. Now this system, it's a little stuck in there, so we got to pull with some pressure. So I'm going to try and do a controlled pull because once it comes out, it might shake everything, and we don't want to shake unnecessary fluid out. So I'm stabilizing the bar, and I'm just going to try and use a little technique here where I'm using my fingertips and then I'm kind of bending my fingers. That's going to be my PowerPoint right there. So I do a controlled pull rather than pull everything and my whole body and the whole bike, everything goes shaking. So I'm just going to try and pull out about a ½ inch or an inch. So that's pretty tough. I'm going to have to use a little more force. Hey, you know what? Just wiggle and jiggle very gently and it actually came out on its own. So, or maybe I scared it. So here we got the crushed olive, that's the brass color, and then inside is our barb. So when we cut, we got to at least cut past the barb, but we're going to actually measure this because we want to take all this length out. It's a little bit too long. Typically the front hydraulic line or brake for any bike is always going to be sitting in front of all the rest of the cables. So we'll pretend this one's not here. And the good thing about the front is we can cut quite a bit because we don't have to worry about it extending. Right now it's at the full extension, the forks are all the way down. If anything, the fork's going to come up and it's going to give more length. Actually this right here looks great, it's very trim, but actually we just got a little drop coming out there. But we're not going to worry about that. This length looks good, but it's a little too short. We don't need to be perfect. We want to give it a little bit of slack, a little bit of a nice arc or bend. And then we know that at least about from here at this point, we're going to have another ½ inch or so go inside there. So that's where I'm going to put my finger. I'm probably going to mark it right there. And we don't have to worry about taking length when we turn left or right because the forks and handlebars are moving together. So again, that looks pretty decent. Probably wouldn't go less than that. We always want to be, I'm going to pull just a little bit more. So we're going to end up with something like that, opposed to this, what we had. So we're going to take up all that. So we're probably going to take off about 4 or 5 inches. So I'm going to mark that. Grab your tool. Always have your tools a little closer since you will be working alone. So I'm going to go ahead and use the wire cutters. And with these cutters, they have an angle on them. So you want to line this blades up so it does a complete cross cut. Across, we don't want to cut at an angle. Do it as flat as you can. That's going to ensure a better fit once we get everything together. Something like that. When you give it a clip, you're going to try and catch, or you don't have to catch this, but you will have some fluid dropping. So make sure you don't drop over the bike, or just maybe have a rag ready to go. Something like this. So I'm going to hold the bottom and the top, and this is a controlled cut. Just like that. Go ahead and put your tool down. This is the garbage. This has fluid in it, so go ahead and toss it in the garbage if you have it. Try and keep this one upward because fluid is inside, it will want to drip out. And then you're going to look inside there, and if that hole looks a little bit crushed, we're going to open it back up. So I'm actually going to use a pick to open up that hole a little bit, and that rounds it out again. So if you have any excess fluid, go ahead and wipe up. Try and keep mess to a minimum, that way we don't get it all over our gloves, things start getting slippery and spreading it all over the bike. Not too bad if it's mineral oil. I always carry a bottle of alcohol, isopropyl alcohol. You can do something like this, put it in a squirt bottle, keep it somewhere near, somewhere clever, something like that. Okay, so now this is our proper length. It's going to go just like that. So we're going to go ahead and put on our new olive. So we already have our bolt and our dust cap sitting on the line right here. And we're going to slide our olive on. I like to do that first, and then we're going to go ahead and press in our barb. So that barb end goes in. If you have trouble starting it and getting it in, make sure that hole's rounded off in the hose. I'm going to press that on as hard as I can with fingers. Now this is where it gets tough because it doesn't allow me to put a little tool like Avid has a little tiny Torx I can stick in there, probably an 8 or a 10 or something like that. So this is where the blocks come in. So block on one side, block on the other, basically making a hose sandwich. And make sure you have it low enough because we need to allow that barb to come down, and we don't want to restrict it because the blocks are in the way. So have it close enough too, because we also don't want it something like this and then the hose ends up bending, which we don't want it either. So I think that's going to be good right there. Hold that together, get your vice grips. Remember, you want a good fit. You want some pressure on this tool when it clicks shut. So that way it's holding this hose nice and tight, because we're going to start pounding it. Go ahead and get your oversized tool. We're going to pound the barb until it makes contact with the hose. So it made good contact, couple taps for good luck. Alright. And you're going to hold that, hold your blocks, and you're going to open up your tool. It's going to spread apart like this. Tools down. Blocks away. Alright. So now we're going to slide our barb back up. Remember, the hose is going to stay on the outside of all the rest of your hoses. This is always in front. So we got hose coming up, and followed by our nut. A little tricky here. So I'm going to put this here. So I like to put the hose in first, and go ahead and push your nut, which is pushing your olive. Go inside. Keep firm pressure with your hose forward, not a whole lot of pressure, just real light pressure, and then start screwing in your nut. And that's finger tight there. So now we're going to tighten the rest of it up. We're going to snug it up with your nut, with your flare nut wrench. Don't go too tight. We're going to use the torque wrench for this, but I'm going to take most of the turns out. That way I don't have to turn too much with that torque wrench. already feeling some pressure. Right now the barb is compressing, it's getting crushed, it's getting formed to form a nice seal. So I'm going to stop right there. Maybe that was a good turn and a half. So now we're going to use our torque wrench. So the torque wrench I'm going to set to about probably anywhere from 5 to 7 Newton meters. I'm going to do just about 7, or just a hair below 7. And I'm going to use this nice piece here that I got from the Avid kit. I don't know if I think these are also called crow's foot. So this would be a number 8 crow's foot that's going to fit on this ratch right here. This is the 3/8 as well. And then make sure you're going the correct direction. So we're still tightening, so we're going down, which is clockwise. And you turn it downward. Remember, this torque wrench is going to click and the head will pivot. It's going to tell you when to stop. And I gotta take this off and reset it. Put it back on. There it is. So turning very slowly, very gently, just got that click. I'm going to verify the click again. So pivots right at the neck right there, and it offers just the lowest audible click, but you're going to feel it. So now I'm confident that this bolt is tight enough. If this bolt is not tight enough, the hose can slip out when you go to squeeze that brake lever and you put a lot of pressure on it. Boom! This will pop out, all your fluid's gone, your braking is gone, you're dangerous, you're on the floor, or you're kissing a tree. Okay, so we're all nice and tight. Kept drips to a minimum. If you have any fluid here, you can go ahead and spray some isopropyl alcohol on it. Don't have to go crazy. A little on the front, a little on the back, a little between the cheek and gums. And a nice towel. I also use some blue paper towels. These are okay. They tend to get wet. They will dissolve somewhat quickly. They don't like alcohol too much, but it does do the job. They're fairly low, lint free. So we're good there. So we can slide our little dust cover cap back on. Boom, all done. Now for the final test, the moment of truth. We're going to see if we got some power here, or at least we want to make sure that the lever does not hit the bar. So we're going to squeeze real gently. Boom, that's good. So that's where it stopped. That's where my brake pad made contact with my rotor. I like it. So we're good to go. You can also do a further test. You can squeeze this a little harder. You can kind of pretend you're on the trail and you just went off a big jump and then it went into a tight right-hand turn into a berm, and you're gonna nosedive. So you're gonna squeeze this super hard like it's one of those oh crap situations. And we're just testing it, making sure that there's no leakage here. You can also slide this dust cover back, double check for any leakage there, squeeze nice and hard. And if this, one time we had this hose pop right off, and I'm glad it happened in the stand. That was, you do one of those things once, you learn quickly that these have to be at a certain tightness or torque setting. So I feel very confident that this is good to go. And all that without any bleeding. So this is our hose. A little hard to see here, but the hose certainly got shaved down. So this is our rear, which is definitely too big, so we're going to do this one next.